Namaste. We are with Gautamji once again for our next podcast. Gautam, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure, Nick.
Gautam, today I want to talk to you about something which I feel could benefit many devotees if they just ponder on this. That is the attitude to life events that they exhibit and live with.
Right.
So, just to give an example right in the beginning, there could be one particular situation that is experienced by two devotees, so say a very similar karmic pattern, but their attitude to it could be entirely different, which in turn changes how they experience that event.
Right.
And I wondered if you could speak about this, and give us a deeper understanding on that, Gautam.
Of course. And Nick, you will find that what I will say now is covered in the other podcasts as well. But now that the focal point is the attitude,
Yes.
if we just explore this a bit, you see, it was Dayanand Saraswati who was asked that is there such a thing as free will? And he gave the example of a goat which is tied to a rope, and the rope is tied to a peg on the ground. Now the goat can roam around, but only to the length of the rope. Beyond that it can't go because it is tied. But within that length, the goat can graze around, go nearer to the peg, go furthest away, but not beyond, right? So this is what he said. He said this is the extent of our free will,
Yes.
because already the circumstances have been determined for us. Look at it today, Nick. Actually, you've asked this question at the right time. It is everyone's experience now with the coronavirus situation that we are forced not only to live indoors, but our ways of work are going to change. And none of this has been in our control. It has been forced upon us. So even those people who felt that, oh, I'm in control of my life,
Correct.
now look at the lesson life has taught them. You see? So this is what Dayanand Saraswati was pointing to, that within that given set, you can exercise your free will, which primarily means your attitude in your life.
Yes.
You see, because that is where the difference comes in. Our approach, like you said, if there are two people with similar karmic patterns, what reduces the load for one compared with the other is the psychological attitude. You see, because what happens is, let's say there's suffering in one's life. There are more pains than pleasures. The difference is that the suffering or pain which is destined for us, we do not just live through that, we add additional layers of psychological suffering, because we say, why me? Why did God do this to me? I have not done anything cruel. These kind of dialogues create a lot of anxiety and mental disturbance. Then this is the focal point of our discussion. The attitude to life determines whether we suffer this extra load of the ego with its dramas, shenanigans and antics.
Yes.
That is very important, because at the end of the day, we all know we have a fixed number of breaths given to us. This is what we have been told in our incarnation. This is already predetermined. Now, how are we going to spend those breaths? Are we going to spend them in hatred, malice, condemnation, jealousy, envy, blame, and so on and so forth? Or is our mind going to be free of psychological suffering, and we are living moment to moment, meeting our destiny with the strength and conviction of grace behind us? And grace in this sense would be the blessings of the Master.
Yes. Gautam, this takes me to something very related, which we had actually discussed in our first talk of this series, Living the Teachings of Baba, in which we had specifically spoken about the fact that only the master sees the entire big picture. And for example, over here, if two devotees have sort of, say, difficult and similar circumstances, to realize that, say, in the past, if one starts dwelling on it, it is only the master who can see the entire picture.
Yes.
And then that feeling of, oh, why life has been impartial to me, or why have I not got something, completely falls away. Because you leave that to Baba, saying Baba knows what is best, only he knows my past and what is going to happen. So why don't we leave that at Baba's feet?
Yes. In fact, Nick, my spiritual teacher gave a very beautiful example to illustrate this point you have mentioned. He said that imagine it is night time. You have a small torch in your hands, or let's say the torch of your mobile phone.
Yes.
And you enter a museum. You enter the painting gallery section. Now, there is a huge painting, 100 feet long, but it is pitch dark, and all you have is this light in your hands. So you are able to see only one thin sliver, one thin section of the painting, and you try to make sense of it. But the 95% which is beyond you right now, you have no idea how it is going to turn out.
Correct.
Now that painting has already been painted by the painter. Who is the painter? God, Baba. He knows the painting, it's his creation. You as the individual have such a narrow vision that you see that just little bit of that painting, and then you start assuming things. Oh, I think this is going to happen, this is going to come, this might happen, A might happen, B might happen, C might happen, D might happen. Worry, fear, anxiety, frustration. This is what we do, you see. And that is why, Rameshji put it very simply. Some people might find it pessimistic, but it is the truth. He said that, we all of us are limited in life to the form of our bodies, because that's our limit. We are limited beings. We come in limited to this form. And this limitation is like an imprisonment. Consciousness, which is who we really are, is limited to form. And so this has become like an imprisonment. And he says it is called simple imprisonment. Why? Because we've been born in a particular family, to a particular set of parents, in a particular geographical location, in a particular economic status, and so on and so forth. And then we get this bombardment of conditioning from day one. As children, the school we go to, the religion we follow. So all these limit us. We are limited by our conditioning, over which we had very little control. Now, this simple imprisonment, what we human beings do, we complicate it so much that we convert it into rigorous imprisonment. You see, we make life not only hell for ourselves, but for those around us. That is what the psychological suffering does. And why we are mentioning this is because of that magic word, attitude.
Yes.
What is my attitude to life? Do I accept that things are happening the way they are meant to happen? I may or may not like them. I'm not saying that we have to just lie down and do nothing. But you see, as Eckharte Tolle says, first we have to accept the isness of the situation, because it is there before us. Let's say there's a challenge at work. Let's say there's a health issue. First, accept that the challenge is there because it is in front of you. Then, by all means, do exactly that which you think and feel you should do. So the difference is this time with that acceptance, the mind is calmer. The mind is not in this reactive, resistance driven mode from the start itself. This should not be happening. Why is God doing this? All that dialogue is finished. When that dialogue is finished, our minds are open. We can take better decisions. We take and make responses rather than reactions. We weigh the pros and cons and we deal with what life brings. Isn't that what Baba has also said?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So it is the attitude, you see.
You know, Gautam, I would like to share a very, very touching story that happened right in front of me in Dwarkamai. I think it was December 2019 on one of my last visits, where at night I had gone to Dwarkamai and they were cleaning Dwarkamai. It was about 1 or 1:30 at night, and devotees can go and sit there. It's open all through the night. And they were cleaning Dwarkamai, and when they do the cleaning, they ask devotees to step out for those 20 minutes. And I saw a gentleman there who was physically handicapped. So he was amputated of one arm and one leg. And I saw him go towards Baba, bow down. So on one knee he squatted, did a full Shashtang Pranam to Baba, Namaskar, got up. Then he hopped because, and basically both his amputations were on one side. Then he hopped towards the corner of Dwarkamai, picked up a bucket, picked up a little thing to mop the ground, actually hobbled his way to the other corner and went down on one knee and was doing seva. He was mopping the ground there. And I was standing out looking at him and I'm saying, wow, look at this man. And the smile on his face when he did the namaskar to Baba was like out of this world. Like his gratitude to be alive, to be there. You could see that shine in his eyes.
Yes, beautiful.
Yeah, and I said, if this gentleman who has every reason to complain that he's, been treated unfairly or whatever, comes to his guru's door and has such reverence for, life itself, then I think all of us, there is no excuse for pretty much anybody. I mean, that's probably the hardest it can get, right?
Yes, but we lose sight of that, you see, because we are so used to our comforts and how things should be for us.
Exactly.
That, when we see, something like this should actually create not only a shock, but a transformation in someone.
I was standing there and I was just astonished. I said, look at people complain. It's like that story we hear in school where they say there was a man who complained that he lost his shoes till he met a man who had no feet.
Exactly.
And this happened right in front of me. And, he went on. Nobody was there to help him. So obviously he was a regular. And he went and diligently with one hand keeping the bucket next to him. It was just amazing. I wanted to go meet him and just greet him, but I could not because they had barricaded the entry at the time.
Yes, and in such situations one can just send across a quiet blessing the person's way, But you mentioned Dwarkamai.
Yes.
And I somehow thought of the fire of Dwarkamai, the Dhuni. And it struck me that, you see, the Dhuni for the Naths, the Nath yogis, the Nath yogis who belong to the Navnath Sampradaya, is very sacred. They have a relationship with their fire and the fire talks back to them. And as we know, Sainath was a Nath also amongst all his various attributes. So that fire, especially since it's burning since that time,
yes,
is a very powerful fire. Now the thing is, what we tend to do, and it's not just, of course, Dwarkamai, even if we go to an astrologer, if we go to a tarot card reader, all astrologers, tarot card readers, etc. will say that 95% of the questions people ask fall in one of three categories: health, money, relationships. 95%. Okay. Now, the whole point is that 2 out of 3, actually all 3 are transient. Everything comes and goes in life. Money comes and goes. Everyone's life experiences, they've had losses and they've made money when they've been fortunate. Comes and goes. Relationships come and go.
Correct.
Even your family relationships, your parents will pass on. Then friendships you've had, some you've lost, new ones you've made. Lovers you've had, some you've lost, new ones you made. Comes and goes. Health also, one's experience has been that there are good years and not so good years. Now, the whole point is that when we are presenting ourselves in front of the Dhuni, is our mind only full of this, Baba give me this, Baba give me that relationship, give me this much money? Or is our thought also, give me what you want to give me what you feel is best for me, give me the strength to deal with whatever comes my way, give me the courage to live the life courageous by following your teachings. You see, these are not thoughts which come up spontaneously because we are too stuck in the mundane issues of life.
Yes.
But that fire is, what is fire, Nick? It comes from the sun.
Yes.
And what is the sun? Nothing but purity. In fact, in our scriptures, the sun is called visible Brahman.
Yes.
The only God who is visible. Why does fire rise upwards to go and meet the sun? You see, symbolically. So that is a very auspicious fire. That's the point I'm trying to make. I mean, you may say it's got nothing to do with attitude, but since the Dwarkamai scenario came up,
yes,
I just thought of making a mention of this, that whoever goes to Dwarkamai must present themselves before the fire and ask the fire to purify oneself. Let the fire do the job, you see.
With this being said, Gautam, it also reminds me of one example actually we cited last time in one of the earlier talks, which Osho had cited very beautifully, of this devotee who was facing acute hunger, and his prayer to God was of gratitude that God, thank you for giving me hunger, that was my true need. And that is an expression of total acceptance of life.
Yes.
And complete surrender.
Yes, a bit austere for most of us. It will be tough to be at that level, but it's the perfect example. Yes.
So Gautam, if you have any other pointers or something I may not have asked you on attitude that you would like to say?
Well, just to sum up, I think the attitude is the attitude to people in our lives, the attitude to events we are called upon to face in our lives, and the attitude to our own thoughts. This is actually a spiritual practice. One can keep asking oneself, what is my attitude in the course of the day when I am encountering events or people or the thoughts in my mind? Are they life negative thoughts? Are they negative reactions to people? Are they negative reactions to events? And Nick, the surprising thing is one just has to be a witness. Just witness your attitude, not even make a change. The change will happen. First step is, are you aware of your attitude? Because most of us are not. Most of us are battling with life psychologically. You see? So this witnessing element,
yes,
when you are aware that, my God, I'm actually thinking all the time fear-based thoughts, life negative thoughts, I'm thinking ill of people, I don't want this guy to succeed, I don't like the nature of this girl. Look at it, look at the attitude which is in your mind, be aware of it, do not judge it, because after all we all have been conditioned as well by our circumstances.
Yes.
But that witnessing is what brings about a transformation in the attitude. It will happen. So that's all I'd like to add.
Wonderful. Wonderful, Gautam. So you've given us a lot of pointers to contemplate and bring into our everyday life.
Great.
And Gautam, thank you for your time as always. And hopefully, we can continue these series of conversations with you.
Most welcome, Nick.
And while we are talking, maybe I can ask you to commit to the next episode. So, one of the topics that comes to mind, Gautam,
Mm-hmm.
is cultivating unshakable faith in Baba,
Mm-hmm.
which is sort of untouched by even the most dire experiences. Like, for example, now we talked of this beautiful gentleman who was doing seva in Dwarkamai,
Right.
and he has every reason for his faith to be shaken, but just the way he bowed down to Baba and his attitude and reverence
Mm-hmm.
speaks volumes of his faith.
Right.
And if we can cover this very important topic, because Baba summed it up into Shraddha and Saburi,
Yes.
and Shraddha across pretty much anything that life may bring. If we can talk about that, that would be wonderful.
Sure, we can. My
Wonderful.
pleasure, Nick.
Wonderful, Gautam. Thank you so much. You take care.
You too. Bye.
Yeah, bye.